Hello my lovelies, it's Susanna, and today I want to show you how the quadratic formula works using these three examples. Let's start with the first one here. Before taking a look at the quadratic formula, why are we even allowed to use this formula here? Because here we have an equation and we have a quadratic equation. So there is a part with x squared in here. There is also a part with an x, that's okay. And there is also a part that doesn't have an x at all, that's also okay. But the important part is that we have a part with x squared. And another important thing is that on the other side you have a 0. So if your equation doesn't look like this yet, you have to bring everything to one side of the equation so that on the other side you have a 0. And then you are allowed to use the quadratic formula that looks as follows. Our solution x can be found by a big fraction. We have minus b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c over 2a. In this formula, we have a, b, and c in here. So the question is, in our example here, what is my a, what is my b, and what is my c? A is always the number in front of the x squared. So you go to your x squared, and in front of this we have the 12, so this is my a. So 12 is my a. B is always the number in front of the x part, so in this case it's the negative 10, always with a sign, that's important, so negative 10 in this case. And c is always the number that doesn't have an x in it, so it's the negative 2 in this case. Let's insert everything here into our formula. Minus b is negative 10, so we take the negative 10 and write it down here, plus minus the square root of b is negative 10. Let's write it in parentheses because we have to square this as well. Minus 4 times a is 12 and times my c is negative 2. So we have to write it in parentheses, the negative 2 here. And here we have 2 times a, so 2 times, and my a was 12. And now we only have to calculate this to find our x here. So this is what we have so far. Let's calculate this a little bit. Minus minus gives us a plus, so we have plus 10 here. Then what do we have in our square root? Negative 10 squared is 100. And here we have to multiply. Let's start by multiplying negative 4 by 12, which is negative 48. And then we have to multiply this by negative 2. So minus times minus is plus already. And 48 times 2 is 96. And down here, 2 times 12 is 24. So in our square root, 100 plus 96 is 196. And then we can calculate the square root because the square root of 196 is 14. So let's erase all of this and let's write down a 14. And now, because of this plus minus, we get two solutions. For our x, we get a first solution, let's call it x1, and then a second solution that I call x2. The first one is with the plus here, so I have 10 plus 14, and all of this divided by 24. And my second solution is going to be 10, and now the minus the 14, and all of this divided by 24. let's simplify this. 10 plus 14 is equal to 24. So I have 24 over 24, which is just 1. So I'm going to erase this. I have 1 as a solution. And here, 10 minus 14 is negative 4. And now we can reduce this fraction here because both numbers are divisible by 4. 4 over 4 is 1. 24 over 4 is 6. So we have negative 1 over 6 here as a solution. So I'm going to erase this here and write down negative 1 over 6. So we found 2 solutions to our equation, and we used the quadratic formula to find these solutions. And if we want to take a look at this visually, we can take everything that we have here on the left side as a function. So let's take this thing here. Let's call this f of x. This is my function. And if I take a look at the graph of this function, here the points where my graph intersects the x-axis, these are my roots. And we have here at 1 a root, and here, you cannot really see it, but it's at negative 1 over 6 a root. So these are the 2 solutions we've just found, and they are the roots of this function here. And sometimes there are 2 roots, sometimes there are none. Sometimes there might be just 1 root. So let's take a look at our next example and let's see what we will have here. Here is our quadratic formula again. We have a quadratic equation here, x squared. We have a part with x, and on the other side, we have a number that is not 0 yet. So before applying the quadratic formula, first, we have to get a 0 here, so let's add 1 on both sides of the equation, so that here we have 6x squared plus 3x plus 1, and on the other side, we get 0. And now we are allowed to use the quadratic formula. For this, we need our a, b, and c again. A is always the number in front of my x squared, so it's the 6 here. B is the number in front of the x, which is a positive 3. And C is the number that doesn't have an x at all. In this case, it's a 1. Let's insert everything into our formula. Minus b is 3 plus minus the square root of b, which is 3 squared, minus 4 times a is 6 times c is 1, and 2 times a is 2 times 6. Let's calculate this here in our square root. 3 squared is 9. And here 4 times 6 times 1 is 24. So we have 9 minus 24, which is negative 15. We have a negative number in our square root this time, which means that we cannot calculate this number here in the real numbers, which means for our solution, there is no solution. We cannot find any solution for this equation here, which is not a problem. It can happen. So in our first example, we had 2 solutions. Here, we don't have any solution, but we can take a look at it visually again by taking this side here as our function. Let's go to new page. This is what we have here for our f of x. And if we take a look at this graph now, we can see that this graph doesn't intersect the x-axis at all. So there are no roots here, and that's why we couldn't find any solutions. And the last case here, what do we get here? We have a quadratic equation again. On the other side, we have the 0. So let's start with the quadratic formula. We just need to find our a, our b, and our c. A is the number in front of the x squared, which is 0.5. B is the number in front of the x with a sign, which is -3. And c is this number here, which is 4.5. Let's insert everything into our formula. Minus b is -3, so let's write it in parentheses, plus minus the square root of b squared, so -3, and then we square this thing, minus 4 times a is 0.5, and c is 4.5. Okay, we need a little longer here. And down here we have 2 times a, so 2 times 0.5. The numbers are not pretty, but we take this entire fraction and let's calculate this. Minus minus is positive, so positive 3 plus minus, what do we have in the square root? -3 squared is equal to 9 minus 4 times 0.5 is equal to 2, and then 2 times 4.5 is equal to 9, and down here we have 2 times 0.5, which is equal to 1. So let's make this fraction a little smaller. 9 minus 9 is 0, so we have the square root of 0 here, which is just 0. So I'm going to erase all of this and write down a 0. Then we have the plus minus here again, so we get 2 solutions, a first one and a second one. First the plus, where we have 3 plus 0, which is just 3 in total, over 1. 3 over 1 is just 3, so I'm going to write it like this. And then the second solution, we have 3 minus 0, which is just 3, and also over 1. 3 over 1, again, is just 3. We found 2 solutions, but they are the same. So we just found 1 solution. We just found the 3 as a solution. So this time we only have 1 solution, which can happen. And we can take a look at it visually again by taking here the left side as our function. Let's go here. Here we have our function f of x. And if we take a look at the graph this time, here we can see we have 1 root here at the 3, and this was the third case that can happen. So you can get 2 solutions, no solution, or 1 solution. I hope it helped you. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. I wish you a wonderful day, and I hope to see you in one of my next videos. Take care!